वासुदेव परामकाः वासुदेव परायोग वासुदेव पराक्रियाः वासुदेव परं ज्ञानं वासुदेव परं तपः वासुदेव परधर्मो वासुदेव परागतिः स्वाहा 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 एते च कलापुंसः कृष्णस्य भगवान् स्वयं श्रीयुगे युगे स्वाहा 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 इदं भागवतं नाम पुराणं ब्रह्म संहितम् उत्तमश्लोकचरितं चकारं भगवान् ऋषिः निःश्रेयास्य लोकस्य धन्यं स्वति अयनं महत् स्वाहा 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 ओम विष्णु ओम तत्सत् इदं न मम ओम स्वस्वाहा इदं नारायण इदं न मम ओम भूर्स्वाहा इदं अनंताय इदं न मम ओम अस्मिन् भगवत् परिपूर्णं तत् मे we now do the Homa for the Acharyas and Mahabhahu.
Kaya Gurunviditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Swaha Swaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutare Sapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupagadamayam Swayam Rupagadamayam Yati Svapadantika Yati Svapadantika Vandeham Shri Guru Vandeham Shri Guru Shrika Padakamalam Shrika Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansha Shri Gurun Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Bhagana Raghunatham Adhitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shri Vishakanvitam Swaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadeshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Varshavanavi Devi Gayataya Kripabdaye Sambandha Vijnana Ayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryojvala Premadhya Virupanuga Bhaktida Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddhapa Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Nirvambara Sambho Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nugavarayate Bhavabhumeshvam Nirdishta Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha
Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Krishe Namaha
Namne Gaura Krishe Namaha
Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratopango Mamamanda Matergati Vatsarvasvapadam Bhojo Raja Madana Mohano Vidyad Vrindasarasaramdi Mamshi Vatatastitaha Karshan Venusvanayar Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestunaha Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Swaha 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 Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Swaha Swaha Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
स्वस्तिनो ऋषिकेश हरि ददातु स्वस्तिनो वैनतीय हरि स्वस्तिनो अनंजन सुतो धनु भागवत ददातु स्वस्ति स्वस्ति सुमंगलैः केशुमहान् श्री कृष्ण सच्चिदानंद ग्रह सर्वेश्वरेश ददातु ओम ध्यात शांति with two hands just drop it in slowly. ओम देह शांति अंतरिक्ष शांति पृथ्वी शांति अपहत शांति वायु शांति तेजस शांति औषध शांति लोक शांति ब्राह्मण शांति वैष्णव शांति शांति अस्तु इतेर अस्तु ओम शांति ओम शांति चिंतामणि प्रकट सत्म सुखं कवृक्ष लक्षावृतेषु सुरभिरभिमालयन्तम् लक्ष्मी सहस्र सदसं ब्रह्मसेयमानं गोविन्दमानि
पुरुषं तमहं भजामि वेदं पवन्तमरविन्ददलायताक्षं बाधावतं समधिश्रवणसुन्दराङ्गं आलोकचन्द्रकलसत्कलमान्यवंशी रत्नं दलं प्रणयते कदाविनाशं श्यामं त्रिभुवनरहितं नित्यप्रकाशं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि अङ्गानि यस्य सकलेन्द्रियवृत्तिमन्ति पश्यन्ति पान्ति कलयन्ति चिरं चरन्ति आनन्दचिन्मय सर्वोज्ज्वलविग्रहस्य गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि मनसो मुनिपुङ्गवानं सौख्यस्ति यत्प्रभरसिंहमचिन्त्यतत्त्वे गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि एकौक्यसावृषयितं जगदन्तकोटि यशक्तिरस्ति जगदन्तचयायदन्तः अन्धान्तरस्थ परमाणुच गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यद्भावभावतयोनतथैव सम्प्राप्य रूपमहिमाशनयानभूषः सुप्तैर्यमेव जुगमाप्रतथाय सुवन्ति गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि आनन्दचिन्मयरसप्रतिभाविताभिः ताभिर्यमेव निजरूपतया कलाभिः गोलोकदेव निविशान्यखिलात्मभूतो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि प्रेमाञ्जलस्फुरितभक्तिविलोचनेन सन्धत्सदैवहेषु किन्तु कृष्णः स्वयं समभवः परमं पुमान्यो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यस्या प्रभा प्रभवतो जगदन्तकोटि कोटिष्वशेषवसुधादिविभूतिभिन्नं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमनन्तमशेषभूतं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि माया हि यस्य जगदन्तशतानि सुते त्रैगुण्यकाटशयवेदविधायमानः सत्त्वावलम्बी परसत्त्वं विशुद्धसत्त्वं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि आनन्दचिन्मयरसमतया मनस्सु चक्रानिनं फलिफलं स्मरतामुपेत्य लीलायतेन भुवनानि जगत्यजस्रं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि लोकगामि विददामि तले च तस्य देवी महेषु निजामसुतेषु तेषु एते प्रभावनिचयाभिहितमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि दीपाक्षिरेव विदशंहरमाप्युपेत्य दीपायतेव विदहेषु समानधर्म यस्ताक्षुरेव विजविष्णुतया विभासि गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यत्कारणर्णवदेव यति स्वयोग निद्रामनन्दजगदन्तसरोमकूपः आधारशक्तिमवलम्ब्य सुमूर्तिं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यस्यैकनिष्ठचकालमकावलम्ब्य जीवन्ति लोमविरचाजगदन्तनाथः विष्णुर्महान् शरीरस्य कलाविशेषो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि भास्वान्यकांस्मसकलेषु निजेषु तेजः श्रियं कियत्प्रकटयत विकात्तरत्र ब्रह्मा यशेषु जगदन्तविज्ञानकर्ता गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यद्रहेतु किन्तु च भक्तिभाजनं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यं क्रोधकामसहजप्रणयादिभीति वात्सल्यमोह गुरुगौरवसेव्यभावै सञ्चिन्त्य तस्य सदृशं तन्मापुरेते गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि कान्ता परमपुरुष कल्पतरो द्रुमाभूमि चिन्तामणि गणमणि तोयममृतं तथा दानं नाट्यं गानमपतिं चित्रे सति चिदानन्दज्योतिपरमपि सायत्रं जलति सर्वति
And then you do Bhagavad
Want to begin? Components of culture is, particularly for a householder, is receiving guests. And when Prabhupada taught us that when, according to Vedic culture, when a unexpected guest comes to the door, a householder is taught to receive the guest as if they are Narayana. Meaning, who knows? Maybe it's Narayana. So every guest is to be received that way. And one who has such culture, when they receive Narayana in their home, their hearts are already cleansed. Something like before Krishna appeared in the mind of Vasudeva, the mind of Vasudeva was cleansed. And because the mind of Vasudeva was cleansed, Vasudeva appeared within the mind of Vasudeva. And he had the power to transfer from his mind to the mind of Devaki, Vasudeva. And then in a transcendental way he entered into the womb of Devaki and then appeared sometime later. What we're doing this evening is receiving a guest, the personality of Godhead. You've invited the personality of Godhead to your home. And this is the kind of guest that once you invite him, he doesn't go away. Children, you invite as mother and father, you invite a child to come, and after some time they grow up and they go away to their own home. But Krishna doesn't grow up and go away and go to his own home. He stays in your home. And by Krishna's presence in the home, especially when received properly, initially, when Krishna is received in one's home, he sanctifies the home. So that before inviting Krishna into your home, you make the home fit. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Leela of Jagannath Rath Yatra. Before Jagannath Rath Yatra, Lord Chaitanya, along with his many associates, they went to the Gundicha temple, which is some distance down the Grand Road, and cleansed the Gundicha temple to make it fit for Jagannath to come from the temple to Gundicha. Elaborate description of the cleansing and the spiritual significance of the cleansing was preparing the heart to receive Krishna. So all the straws and particles of sand and dust indicate different impure things of the heart that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, literally by cleansing the temple, one cleanses one heart. It's figurative, but it's also literal. By cleansing the temple of the Lord, one's heart becomes cleansed. And I can remember, how long ago was it we first came to your home?
Almost 10 years back.
10 years back. We've been here several times to your home. And just coming, because I was not connecting where we were coming and, the event. But when I walked in and saw you, sitting at the Yajna arena here, my heart was very happy to see how nicely your family has step by step made such nice progress that now you're inviting Krishna into your home. Because that's what Srimad Bhagavatam is. There's a description in multiple places in the Puranas that identify Krishna. The Bhagavatam is the literary form of Krishna. The Padma Purana, for example, describes of the 12 cantos, each of the 12 cantos that identifies the lotus feet of the Lord, the thighs of the Lord, the calves of the Lord, the waist of the Lord, the smiling face of the Lord, the forehead of the Lord. Each of the 12 cantos indicate that the form of the personality of Godhead. So here's his lotus feet. The first and the second canto are his two lotus feet. Establishing if you find the lotus feet of the Lord, you found the Supreme Lord. If one takes that position to the Supreme Lord at his lotus feet, you have his mercy and his association. In the first canto, part 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are questions presented by sages who had gathered after Krishna's departure. Kali Yuga had begun, and they knew that after Krishna's departure, what would happen. They were scripturally wise. They knew that Kali Yuga would begin. They knew the symptoms of Kali Yuga, and they wanted to do something because they knew it would be Manda Sumanda Matayo. Manda Bhagya Vipadruta. Manda means bad. You can fill in the blank. Very bad circumstance for people in general. So being saintly people, they wanted to do something about that. With their capacity and with their knowledge and their purity. So they gathered together at Naimisharanya, the hub of the universe, and prepared to execute a 1,000-year yajna. Meaning, after yajna, finish one, start the next one, start the next one. 1,000-year yajna. And fortunately, in their assembly was Sutta Goswami, who was the son of Ramaharshan Sutta, a direct disciple of Vyasadeva, and entrusted with overseeing and maintaining the sanctity and purity of the Puranic portion of the Vedas that Vyasa compiled. And this Sutta, the son of Ramaharshan, had directly heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami. So they were very eager to hear that message of Srimad Bhagavatam that Sutta had heard from Shukadeva Goswami. And they explained, not only you heard it, but you understood it. And not only you understood it, but you assimilated it. And not only you assimilated it, but you're very expert at speaking it. So we're on the edge of our straw mats, and we want to hear from you this message. And one of the questions they asked 6 questions at the beginning. And the 6th question was, now that Krishna has departed, when he was present, Krishna was maintaining religious principles. Just wherever he walked, he sanctified the earth and everything became purified, and religious principles were under his protection. Irreligion couldn't stand before him. But now Krishna's gone. And now that Krishna's gone, where's the protection for religious principles? How is that to be maintained? And 2 chapters later, the answer is given. Srimad Bhagavatam. It was in a poetic verse. It says that shortly after, just as the sun may set in the west, and shortly after that the moon may rise on the east, so similarly, shortly after the departure of Krishna, the moon-like rays, as brilliant as the sun, has appeared. When Krishna departed, the setting of the sun. And Srimad Bhagavatam has just now appeared, which is as brilliant as the sun, but as soothing as the rays of the moon. Because when Krishna came, he used weapons. He was hot. He used his Brahmastra weapon and his Sudarshan Chakra weapon and various astras to destroy the demons. Even sometimes it was just his fist or Balaram's fist, but like thunderbolts, ending Chanura and Mushtaka and Kamsa and so many demons, Pralambasura. But the Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't have fists. It's very soothing, like rays of the moon are very soothing, but as powerful as the sun. And in this way, those who take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, their religious principles are protected. And within society, religious principles can similarly be lifted. Repeatedly. The message of the Vedas indicate that in this age of Kali, religious principles are to be upheld by brahmanas, but Brahminical culture is to be maintained through proper samskaras, and even the first of the samskaras is not performed, so what to speak of all the rest of them. And so, how are there qualified brahmanas to uplift and hold up religious principles? It's unfortunate. And therefore, recognizing that misfortune, this message of Srimad Bhagavatam is provided because it provides a equal in purity, but more approachable process based on spiritual sound vibration. Bhagavata Dharma is based on these principles of hearing and chanting. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandaram, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. The principles of devotional service, that which can elevate one to the topmost position, can be accepted regardless of one's previous good fortune or ill fortune. And in the age of Kali, the atmosphere is filled with misfortune just by contacting the rapid downward swirl of the material energy, like the Ganges River during rainy season. Even without the rainy season, it moves very swiftly. In the rainy season, it's so fast. I wanted to read one part of one verse in purport from Srimad Bhagavatam, just in appreciation of its message. There's so many wonderful verses, but when Vyasadeva was instructed by Narada to compile Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva had already taken the oral tradition of all the Vedas and put it into a written form. He did that because he saw, he was Trikalagya, he could see past, present, and future equally, perfectly. We can't even perfectly understand now. But he could understand perfectly now and past and future. So he looked into the future and saw Kali Yuga. And he also wanted to do something. Saintly people want to do something when they see something that needs attention. Being a literary person, what he did was he took the Vedas and made them accessible for people of this age of Kali, because in previous ages people had better memory, but in this age memory becomes shorter and shorter and shorter. So he wrote them down so they could be referred to. And the four Vedas and the Smriti portion of the Vedas and Mahabharata, vast literature, Vedanta Sutra, the sutra codes that summarize the essence of all the Vedas. And having completed all of this, he stepped back from his work and considered how did it come out, and he felt dissatisfied. And he was pondering, why am I feeling this way? If we're introspective and honest, we'll also recognize that pinch in the heart, is something that says it's something missing. Some inadequacy is there. So he felt that, and Narada came just at that time and explained to him, I'm just summarizing some portion, chapter 5 of Canto 1, where Narada says to Vyasa, what you've written is very good. You've simply taken the Vedas and presented it in a written form. However, you've given inordinate emphasis on that portion of the Vedas which deals with material enjoyment. Enjoying in a religious way, by propitiating the devas, by yajnas and sacrifices and rituals, whereby people can then prosper by the mercy and the kindness of the devas. And people already have a tendency for material implication. And now you've so much emphasized it, people think, that's it. There's nothing more than this. Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita, the 2nd chapter. For the most part, people think the Vedas are for that purpose. To support the necessities of human existence, to go about that in a religious way, so that in this life one can prosper, and in the next life one can attain heavenly opulence. And there's nothing more than that. Krishna says it right in chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtrigunya Vavarjana. Chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says the Vedas deal mainly with the 3 modes of material nature and how to enjoy them. Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtrigunya Vavarjana. One should rise above those 3 modes of nature and the fruits that come from religiously addressing the interests according to the 3 modes of nature, and become transcendental to all of them. The message of Bhagavad Gita is a transcendental message, right from the get-go, right from the very beginning. And Bhagavatam is such literature. So Narada said to Vyasa, you're feeling dissatisfied because you haven't sufficiently explained to people the purpose behind that elevation is not prosperity in this life and attaining Svarga after this life, nor is it that portion of the Vedas that deals with mukti, sayuja, mukti, merging with the undifferentiated Brahman. The purpose of the Vedas is to bring one to the position of loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna declares this in Bhagavad Gita also. Vedaish desire vire, aham eva vedyo, vedanta krid veda vid eva chaham. Krishna says, the purpose of the Vedas is to know me. I am the compiler of the Vedas, in his form as Vyasa, and I know the Vedas as it is, or as they are. So, the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna, not material elevation and prosperity in this life and so forth. That's certainly a byproduct of pious life, and a large portion of the Vedic literature. But what's the purpose behind that elevation? By taking the lower modes of nature and elevating them to the quality of goodness, it's likened to taking wet wood and making wet wood dry wood, so the dry wood could be put into the fire and ignited in the fire. Because you can't ignite wet wood. It just makes smoke. No fire. We had smoke and fire. And the wood was dry. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So Vyasa was instructed by Narada to compile one literature that's just describing the personality of Godhead and the means to attain Him, pure devotional service. Just that, and nothing else, and you'll feel very satisfied. And that's that literature that Sutta Goswami said is where religious principles are to be held. So when describing to Vyasadeva what that literature should be, he explained it's not just knowledge, nor is it the literary embellishments of that literature. The Bhagavatam is known, in fact that's its appellation, Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very, very beautifully composed. That beautiful composition about Bhagavan. But even if the embellishments, or if there's some discrepancy or technical something, Narada instructed, the essence is what will elevate. Here's the verse is nice verse. Tadvag visargo janata aghavit lavo yasmin pratishlokam abhat yavat svapi namanya nantasya yashon kataniyat shinvanti gayanti grananti sadavaha. Very nice verse. Such a nice verse that Prabhupada put it in the preface of each volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. And here's the translation. That literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation. In previous verses describing modern literature. It's a different creation full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Sadhavaha. So that's the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's purifying just by, there are verses in the Bhagavatam that says that if one keeps a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam in your home, just keeping it on the shelf, just by having invited the Bhagavatam to come in your home, just leave it on the shelf, let it collect dust and whatever. It will, your life will become transcendently benefited. What to speak of, if you will take it off the shelf, open the cover, and read a verse. The sound vibration is sanctifying. So it may be a nice practice in your home would be something like, maybe you do this already with Bhagavad Gita, read a verse a day. But read a verse a day. Sometimes there's long purports that may take a long time. Maybe 15 minutes, my goodness. And sometimes they're very short purports that may take 5 minutes. But read a verse a day. And then in 18,000 days, read Srimad Bhagavatam, cover to cover. We had a gathering in Mayapur of 1,000 devotees, leaders from around the world, for a International Leadership Sangha. We gave it an acronym, ILS. The previous time we had one, it was 550. This time was 1,000, because it's so popular, word got out, people came. And one of the groups of devotees was from China. It was. You'll hear me speaking a little bit more about this, but it was like seeing a bouquet, a flower vase that has so many different flowers of so many different varieties and so many different colors, and it was fantastic. Wow! I mean, that's just like the International Society for. It was an international gathering. It was pretty amazing. Anyway, so the governing body commissioner of China requested the organizer of the ILS to address them. And he had gone there before, like 5 years ago, and introduced to them the idea of making a strategic plan for the development of China. And they went, wow, that's a good idea, let's make a plan for developing things. So he got them going, and one of the things that he wanted to do is he recognized that the necessity, because they don't have temples, I mean, they're not supposed to have temples. They have gatherings of devotees, but no temples. And so they don't have training, it's just whatever. So he suggested, you don't have temples, so you should. And he would support it, and they started a program of regularly, systematically studying Prabhupada's books. So then he asked them a question: how many of you have? Because by that time the ILS was almost over, and then the next 10,000 more people from around the world were coming for the next set of things. The Kirtan Mela, and then the Prikrama around Navadvip, and then the rest of the festival. So imagine going to Mangalarti with 10,000 people.
Go right now.
Boy, it was crowded. It was crowded. It was like uncomfortable crowded. Anyway, so there was a lot of people there. So he said, how many of you have read Bhagavad Gita cover to cover? I wasn't there, he told me about this later. Bhagavad Gita, just, Bhagavad Gita. And 2/3 of them had read Bhagavad Gita, cover to cover. Not just here and there, but cover to cover. And how many of you have read Srimad Bhagavatam, cover to cover? Not very many. How many have you read Chaitanya Charitamrita? Nobody raised their hand. So he said, I tell you what, you're saying to me you really like this ILS, this gathering, and we should do it again. So we may do it again in 2 years' time. So I'm challenging you. This is like, the assembly of the Chinese devotees with the translator. You know me. I'm an organizer. So I'm challenging you. By the time we come back in 2 years, have read completely Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam cover to cover. And I went, I said, okay, you're saying Jai, now let's see you do it. Because by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, it's purifying. I can say this from my own experience. I mean, I really like Srimad Bhagavatam, so it's easy for me to read Srimad Bhagavatam because I like it. But I notice that by reading it, it changes how I experience things. It's not like things change because I read it, but how I experience things changes. Your experience of life changes because your heart changes. It's mystical. It's not just knowledge, not like some intellectual adjustment or something like that. It acts on the heart directly. It's like Shinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhavaha. It changes your life. Changes how you experience life. I like that experience because we want to be whatever we may think before we started reading Srimad Bhagavatam of being a more spiritually inclined person. You don't exactly really know what that is, but when you enter into the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's transforming. So, thank you for inviting Srimad Bhagavatam into your home. Thank you for inviting us to participate in the celebration of bringing Krishna into your home in his Srimad Bhagavatam form. And please take advantage of regularly taking the book off the shelf and opening it up and reading a verse. Even you may find during the day, devotees do this at work. They take a little break from work, and you can find Srimad Bhagavatam online. There's multiple sources, and it's like you just open it up and read a little passage, meditate on the meaning, let it go into your heart and your consciousness, and it gives spiritual support and sustenance. It's a spiritual vibration you'll like. And do that regularly. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. The inauspicious things become cleansed and devotion to Krishna awakens naturally. Just read verses and purports. It just happens. Cleansing, awakening. Cleansing and awakening. Just and repeat. Cleansing. And it's like growing a garden. A little water, a little sunlight. And then a little more, a little water, a little sunlight. And it says, bhakti becomes matured by that gradual process. It's very, very potent. Right, Gopinath? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna Balaram ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaurataraj ki Jai, Gambhira Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanandi, all glories to the Son of the Devotees, all glories to